Okay, in this video we're going to talk about lists. So we've kind of come to a point where we want to start putting some different kinds of data structures together. Now, this particular structure is a list, and it is an object that contains multiple data items. Now, these data items do not need to be the same. We can put in integers, floats, strings, and different combinations of them depending on how we see fit. A list is much similar to like an array that we'd find in other languages. Now, some things about lists we need to understand. First thing is lists are mutable. That means you can change them during their program execution. So as the program's going through, we can add items to a list. We can remove items from a list. We can even change them, okay? We can change a 5 to a 4, the to and, whatever we want to inside this list. They're also dynamic, okay? And being that they're dynamic, we can do things on the fly. We can also index, slice, and do different kinds of things with a list, okay? So let's take an example of a list. So I'm going to create a variable called myList. And with our lists, we put the contents of our list in square brackets. So I might do something like this. Create a list that has numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in it. I could also create another list, we'll call it myList1, that has strings in it. The first, second, I don't know, right? Just putting some stuff in there. This is a list of strings. I can do another list that has 2.4, 3.8, 2.1, 9.0. Okay, this is a list. Oops, what did I forget? 2.1, comma 9.0. There we go. Now I have a list of floats. Okay. Wherever you look at this, or however you look at it, each item, okay, we call these elements, have to be separated by a comma. Now, a list doesn't have to be just integers or just strings or just floats. We can do combinations. So I'm going to put the word the followed by 5, 7.6, true, and yeah, we'll do that. So now I have a list that has a string, an integer, a float, and a Boolean operator. So lists do not have to contain the same data in them, okay? They can also have all the same data, okay? So I could do something like myList4 equals 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Okay? A list can have a repeating number of characters in it as well, or numbers, or what have you. So lists are really rather interesting in that we can go through and look at some very simple cases of constructing lists to fit our needs. Okay? Now, to print those lists, you just type print myList or print myList1, myList2, you can just print these different lists and however you see fit, and might as well print the fourth one. Okay, so we can see the contents of this list. All right, now lists can get created in any number of ways. We could do something like this. Let's create a numbers list, and we'll set this equal to, we're going to use list. What the function list does is converts whatever is in the parentheses to a list. So if I do like range of 5, okay, print numbers. So just see here, I took the range of 5, that function, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put those numbers in a list. Saved it to this name. So I have my 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do that different kinds of ways. Okay? The range function was called with 5 passed as its argument, as you see here, right? And then the function returns the iterable 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we looked at before. That then gets converted into a list, or I guess the best term would be it assigns it to the list, or converting it, applying it. Basically it makes this range of iterables into a list. Okay? You can also do things like this. Let's create a list of zeros. So 0 list is going to be equal to times 10. Okay? We are allowed to multiply. Now what this does is it's going to create a list, of 10 zeros. Okay? 0, 0, 0, 0. I can also do something like this. Let's call this num list, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 times 5. Okay? What this will do, num list, is it will repeat 1, 2, 3, 4 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Okay? So we can use the multiplication symbol as a way to do repetitive. Okay? We can also concatenate lists, okay, using addition. So list 1 is going to be equal to 1, 2, and 3. List 2 is going to be equal to 4, 5, 6. So list 3 is going to be equal to list 1 plus list 2. So if I print list 3, you see I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that parenthesis should have been up there. And this is important because if I would have done list 2 plus list 1, it would have been 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So order here is important, that it concatenates those two together. Okay? But it makes it nice. Okay? We can also iterate through a list. Okay? We've done things like this. For I in range, 0 to 10, right? Print I, right? And it prints 0 through 9, right? We can do the same thing with a list, okay? So we're going to say for, for I in, let's do list 3, print I, okay? So the lists themselves are also an iterable, which means I can run through them much like we've done with the range before, right? I can do the same with my other lists. So for I in my list, print I, okay? And it prints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So lists are iterable, and we can go through and look at those as we want to. We can also be fancy, and we can get the actual length of our list. Now, one way we could do that is this way. We're going to create a counter, set equal to 0. For I in my list, we're going to do counter equal or plus equal 1. And then we're going to print counter. Oops, I got my tabs wrong. Let's do this. I need to tab this over one. Okay, so you can see here, there's my counter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see I have 5 items in there. So I can do all kinds of different things here. Now, with lists, something that's really nice is we can just use the length command, or the length function, as it were. So if I do something like this, len for my list, okay, it returns a value of 5. This tells me the length of my list. Len list 3, it tells me the length of my list. So I can use the length function to determine the actual length of my list. Okay? Now, something else we can do with lists is we can call them by their index value. All right? The way this works is we have a list, so let's just create, I'm going to create a list called by tens. By tens. I'm going to create this list by using the range function. We're going to go 0 to 100 by 10. Okay? So I'm going to create myself a list called by 10. So if I print by tens, you can see I got 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, all up to 90. What if I want to print just the value 40? That's the only thing I want to print, just that value 40. Well, I would print the name of the list, and then in square brackets, I need the index value for this element. Now, the way index values work is that when you go from left to right, okay, left to right, the index value starts at 0 and increases by 1. So we'd have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? So if I want to see just 40, I'm going to put 4 in it, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to see the 70, okay, the index value is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there we go. Now the same could be true if we read it from right to left. We can go by index value and decide which number to print. Now, when you go right to left, we start with -1. So -1, -2, -3, and so on and so forth. So if I want to print 70, I can either do by tens and then 7, or I can do by tens and a -3. Because -1, -2, -3. The idea is I can go through and determine different values by their index values. Okay? This becomes especially useful when I want to change values in that list. For example, let's say I want to change the number 40 to 400. Well, I'd say by tens, and then in the square brackets, I'm going to put the index value, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and set that equal to my new value. So now if I print by tens, you can see that now 40 has become 400. Okay? It makes it kind of nice that I can do that if I need to. Now, what happens if I try to change something outside of my index range? Okay? So I got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So what if I said I want to make 10 400? Now I get this error, list assignment index out of range. That means this index value is not within that range in the list. Okay? There's only 9 index values. Granted, there are 10 numbers in there, but when you go left to right, we know that you start at 0 and work your way to 9. Now, we could also change multiple values at the same time. By tens, we can say that by tens, let's do index value 2, comma, by tens, index value 5, are going to be equal to, let's make them 200 and 500. Okay? So by tens, the second index value, so 0, 1, 2, so we're going to change 20 to 200, and we're going to change 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 500. So if I print by tens, you can see that I changed it to 200 and 500, okay? This just lets me change two values at the same time. It's really kind of a handy way to do this, okay? So looking at lists just from the onset is not very bad, not very difficult. Again, the idea is to create our lists. Okay, so if we kind of look at, well here, better yet, we can manually create our lists. I know you're going, man, stop scrolling, you're driving me crazy. We can manually create our lists, right? The name of our list, set that equal to, and then in square brackets, the items or elements that we want in our list. Okay, and you see we did that for the first three here. You can also see that they can be combinations of, right? A string, an integer, a float, a boolean. They don't have to be all the same data type, and they can also be the same exact values. So I have a bunch of ones there. You can see that I can print the list by printing the entire list. I just put the name of the list in parentheses. We can use the repetition character. Okay, that's this multiplication symbol here. And that allows me to create a list of multiple of the same number. So in this case, I want 10 zeros, so I do a 0 times 10, and that created me a list of 10 zeros. Here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want that to repeat 5 times. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. I can concatenate lists, right? Using the addition symbol or plus. Here we did list 1 and list 2. We concatenate them together to get list 3, and when I print list 3, I get those two together. We can iterate through a list, right? Using the for, so for I in list 3, it iterates through, right? Same way down below. If we want to know how long a list is, right? We want to know the length of our list. Basically, how many elements are there in a list? We can use len. Right? So len, the name of the list, and it generates the length of that list. We can create lists automatically. Here, we're creating a list of numbers from 0 to 100 by 10. So this returns an iterable, right, or a sequence of numbers, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and converts it to a list. And that's what we got here, right? We've got our list showing here. We can print individual values in the list, right? Or individual elements, calling them by their index values. Remember, we go from left to right. We start at 0 and increase by 1 on the way. We can also go from right to left using negative values. So in this case here, I wanted to see 40. So I'd use index values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hence the 4. If I wanted to print the 70, I had to use index value 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then if I wanted to see 70 using negatives, I'd use negative because from right to left, it's negative, starting at -1. Right? -1, -2, -3. We can change the values because lists are mutable. In this case, I'm changing the element at index 4 to 400. And then we had one more where we can change 2 at the same time, right? By tens, and then the second one, by tens, and the fifth one, we're changing to 200 and 500 respectively. And you see you can print them. Okay? So that was a short introduction into lists. We're going to look at list slicing here in a little bit, and also how we can do some different, more complex things with lists. Okay? If you have questions, as always, feel free to contact me. If not, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, good evening.